It's June 11, 2021, and if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again. Here in LA, a beautiful sunny morning, very still right now, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 Celsius. This morning, I'm thinking about Procol Harum and their song, A Whiter Shade of Pale. This afternoon, it'll be heating up to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, around 26 Celsius, and we're going to be enjoying wall-to-wall solid blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. Everyone, have a great day.
Well, we have to start with that.
Oh, hell yeah.
The man,
Sorry, I'm just mass inviting people. What is it, sorry?
the man brings a lot of pleasure to my mornings the last week. Ever since I rewatched Fire Walk with Me, I've been pretty heavy on the weather reports.
I just watched that one about an hour ago. But it's a hell of a way to start it. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, he's a early riser. 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Pacific Standard Time. Those are already uploaded, so
So,
I'm impressed.
Mr. David Lynch.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, yeah, we're here to discuss Fire Walk with Me primarily.
Yes, we are. To begin, and I'm sure
Yeah.
we're going to talk about his wider works, I hope.
Yes. Well, that's usually the after the break. After the break time, but I feel like we have a hell of a lot to get into. It's quite a dense mythology, this whole movie and everything surrounding it.
Yeah. It's a crazy one. I rewatched it last night.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing to me that it was even made.
Yeah.
Honestly, that someone gave the money to make the film, because usually a film, the point is to get as many people to come watch it as you can, and it's you need to know so much before you even begin, right? Even though it's ostensibly a prequel, there's just so many characters and stuff that it's like it's a throwback to the show. It's all this world that he invented in Mark Frost.
Yeah.
But the movie is actually so different, I find, in tone.
Oh yeah, big way. Well, why don't we
Yeah,
why don't we just refresh ourselves on the movie with a quick trailer here,
hell yeah.
and then we'll jump into it. So I may be wrong about this, but the music in that trailer is not in the series, is it? That's specifically for the movie.
I could not hear that trailer.
Oh, you couldn't?
I
Oh,
heard
for
nothing.
God's
I
sake.
heard nothing. I didn't want to stop the train. I just thought it was my end. Something was
Wait,
amiss.
did you hear
Um,
the weather report?
yeah, I heard the weather report. Yeah, yeah, which is very strange.
Came out on stream
Good.
anyway, that's good.
Albie could hear it, so that's all that matters. Just my own crappy setup could not.
But yeah, I think
Um,
the theme
I-
music was not
I'm
in the
gonna say no, it
series.
wasn't.
Yeah. No help there. That's okay. Well, yeah, I guess to
Fair enough.
discuss the movie, we have to really talk about the series a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, because well, we both kind of individually over the last little while rewatched the original series, and
Yes.
um, it was crazy to me how much I'd forgotten out of it, like how much
Yeah.
the real iconic moments, like the whole Cooper and the cherry pie and the coffee and stuff, and Audrey and the ruining the deal with the Norwegians and her famous dance in the diner and Leo being abusive and all that stuff. Like all of that stuff is really all there, or even like Albert, these characters, all of their major character moments that are so memorable mostly happen in the first 3 episodes, which was kind of surprising to me. Whereas most
Mm.
of the stuff that the characters get up to in the second season is quite forgettable. I know it's far from a controversial opinion to say the second season is the weaker one, but um,
Yeah. Well, it's why it was canceled, and Lynch slowly kind of, even though he directed the final episode of the whole series, he kind of slowly left it. It seems. I
mm,
think this film was his kind of response to that, I guess. His answer. He co-wrote it with one of the writers from the TV show, Robert Engels.
mhm.
Um,
Mark
and
Frost
so
was not
I don't
involved in the
know.
film.
Yeah, yeah, which is strange. I know I've read different things, like maybe there's some conflict between the two of them because of that. That how the series went, how it ended. Uh, I'm sure Lynch felt pretty constrained about the whole thing. Um, I mean, as you can see in this film, uh, he's pretty liberal with the curses and with the content,
Yeah,
um, as his films are. I mean, if you want, like, he made Wild at Heart in the mid, like, I think he left the first season of Twin Peaks to go direct Wild at Heart, which is like very graphic, in its content and subject matter, whatever you want to call it. It's just another thing. Maybe he was also again kind of stifled from the television show and made that film extra fucking crazy. But you get the feeling of this, like he's trying to not. He's trying to stay true to what the show was, but distance himself from the medium or something like that. You know,
yeah.
that's the feeling I got from it. Excuse me.
Well, I guess the movie for
And
me kind
it's
of puts into context what was missing from, or what the problems became with the show. Like once the murder is solved in the second midway through the second season, and the show kind of goes off the rails, it really puts into perspective why that happened for me. Because one thing for sure that I'm pretty confident on is that Laura Palmer as a character was his hook into the show from the beginning. And I know there's a great interview with Angelo Badalamenti, the composer, on Twin Peaks, talking about him and Lynch sitting down and basically writing the theme song to the whole thing together in one sitting. And Lynch was basically describing Laura Palmer, this blonde woman appears in the dark woods, and then she vanishes back into the darkness of the woods, and that was his kind of abiding image for Twin Peaks. And so the fact that you get into the series and her murder is solved and she stops becoming the focus of the series, it makes sense that then you have all these leftover characters that you have, like their whole point was that they were like someone like James or Donna, they're like specifically, their only relevance to anything is Laura Palmer. And when she's not there anymore, what are their stories going to be? That's what I
yeah.
feel strongly. So I think you have Laura Palmer and her like circle of friends and family and that make up the series. and then you have the wider circle, which is like the towns people, like the Double R Diner, and then you have the outside Cooper and the FBI and all those people. Those are, for me, that's the way I kind of imagine the show now. And I think the movie, while it does have the FBI angle at the start, which we'll talk about, which is great, I think.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. It is very much the Laura Palmer story, and it very much for me is Lynch going back to what it was that originally he wanted to tell in the story of Laura Palmer,
Mm.
which is
Well,
like
I
rewatching the film is like after watching the series again, it's like I've just heard this story. I've just heard everything that happened to Laura Palmer over 30 episodes, 29 episodes, and it's like you're hearing it again. So it's kind of a strange feeling.
it is, but like with this movie, it's like I I I actually I don't know if I'm disagreeing, but I just my take on the show is that Laura Palmer kind of didn't matter at the start for him. Like she was the catalyst for things, but it was more the exploration after the fact of her relationships with these people. Like not that she uh because what I've read about him is he kind of just had an image of what this person was, what Laura Palmer was. A blonde girl, like you said, in the woods who they find dead. And then when they even found Cheryl Lee, I think she was just like a person that was going to be a body on a beach. And then they filmed like a when they did the home movie stuff. Remember that from the show?
Yep.
He really found the actress was quite compelling. So, and with that, with the fact that he was kind of in this character with Mark Frost writing all these stories, doing the backstory, all that, then the character started to grow and grow and grow more and more and more. And then when he was forced by the television executives to do what he did, which is reveal, you know, what they had to reveal in season two, um, I think that's when the movie like this started to kind of take its shape because he
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, well, we've given away things. Now I want to go into what exactly happened here, like how she got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heartbreaking story. It's a story, for as much as it's about the Black Lodge and this kind of different parallel universe or whatever you want to call it. It's also a very real story about childhood abuse,
Mm-hmm.
parents, and generational abuse. And
Yep.
it's like, it's that's why I find it so difficult because the show is so fun. Like, and the start of this movie is so fun because you're back with the
Yeah.
FBI guys. You have
Yeah.
like these and also it's a doppelganger thing. You meet Harry Truman's doppelganger essentially, and
Well, yeah,
Lucy's
it's
doppelganger
like everything
with
is
the
flipped
mean.
in the start of this movie. It's like you've
Yeah,
got uh yeah, the town's sheriff in, what is the name of the town? If you I can't remember the name of the town, but it's
oh,
like, yeah, where
it's something.
Truman is like very cooperative and they get on so well, and this guy is just a horrible nightmare. And
Even the receptionist is like this terrible, mean lady, and
yeah,
like you counteract that with Lucy, who's like so sweet, and nice, and whatever,
yeah,
right? And then also the cop, who's like an asshole, and then Andy is like the nicest guy in the world. And then
yeah,
you go to Hap's Diner, it's this older lady who's like
yeah,
looks like she smokes a pack a day, and you
yeah,
contrast that with the diner in Twin Peaks. Like it's just everything is the mirror of one another.
yeah.
Um, and then when you go from this kind of lighthearted fare and then into the Laura Palmer story, which you always knew was not a good. Like we know that she had a rough life, but then we see the details this last week before she dies,
Mm,
and just really how horrible her life was. And it's really an amazing performance by Cheryl Lee, who, like I said, was like I think she was picked up as a local, like not a local, but like just an actress. As like I said, it was a body double, and she just kind of showed them something. And in this
mm,
movie, she's great, really great.
yeah,
And it's I love this movie kind of. Like I didn't love it before. Like I liked it. I was like, oh yeah, it's quirky, whatever. But watching it last night, I didn't want it to end. I was
yeah.
like, I want more. And then I watched that thing you told me to watch today,
Missing
the deleted
pieces.
scenes, the missing pieces. My
Yeah,
God.
the missing pieces
There's
is
so
great.
much
Yeah,
more. There's so much more. Like, and the whole story with like Bobby and how it like fucking murders a guy, and
yeah,
all these crazy things that you see. Like, it really just brings an edge to the story that wasn't there clearly in the
mm,
television show, but was kind of hinted at, right?
yeah,
Um, and we saw parts of, Bob is awful, and we see more of Bob, and he's so fucking creepy. But then to see Mike and the arm, the arm he cut off, which is our little buddy there, Mr. Anderson.
yeah.
Um, It's just like I said though. I know this was widely panned when it came out, and I can kind of see why in a lot of ways. If you never had watched
Oh
Twin
yeah.
Peaks and kind of came into it, um, and like, and the story, like Alvy just said, Bobby has the manic grin of a potential murderer. He does, and Lynch just saw him on set. He was a set dresser, and was
Yeah.
like, "All right." He accidentally in the shot, and then he just built from there. That's what I love about Lynch. He just if he
Oh no,
thinks,
Alvy's
if
talking
you
about
see like he,
Bobby, Dana Ashbrook's character.
oh sorry, Bobby. I thought you said Bob. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Bobby.
confusing. There's two Mikes and two Bobs
Yeah, that's true.
in the Twin Peaks
Yeah, and Bobby
universe.
does kind of. He has like a real, like in the show, he's like a silly kid, but in this movie, the edge comes in, right? And you
Yeah.
see why Laura was with him. You know,
Well, the
this
great thing about
destructive
Bobby's
life that she
character
was
is that
living.
he's on that knife edge between good and evil, right? He could go kind of like Audrey. Like that's what Audrey was as well. She could go kind of either way. Bob is another level of creepy, yeah.
And honestly, the Donna character in this, I know she's played by my childhood fave, Maura Kelly.
Yeah.
I think she just really brings a lot more to the character for me than
Yeah, well,
the
but that's the
television
thing I was
version.
saying is like it's hard to understand what the purpose of Donna is outside of Laura. Like the homemade video that you're talking about is kind of the epitome of almost what this movie is, which is it's those three characters. It's Donna and Laura, and then supposedly James is the one taking the video or making the video. You see the reflection. Famously, Cooper finds the reflection of his motorcycle in Laura's eye.
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great stuff. But yeah,
It is great stuff.
I have a little theory about the opening FBI stuff. I wanna put to you, see what you think. Let me just play this here. Can you hear this now? I'm just gonna play.
You're surprised.
You can.
You can?
Surprised.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to play this. I want to play this great scene of Lil the dancer, with Gordon Cole,
Oh yeah.
and then I want to
I
throw a
love
theory
this
at you.
scene.
I want to throw a theory at you and see
Go
what
ahead.
you think. So here we go.
Throw it at.
Chet, you're surprised. Her name is Lil. She's my mother's sister's girl.
Federal.
Good luck, Chet. Sam, you stick with Chet. He's got his own M.O. Modus operandi. You fellas can reach me in the Philadelphia offices. I'm flying out today.
That really was something with the dancing girl, wasn't it? What exactly did that mean?
I'll explain it to you. Remember, Lil's wearing a sour face.
What do you mean?
Her face had a sour look on it. We're going to have problems with the local authorities. I'm not going to be receptive to the FBI. Both eyes blinking means trouble higher up. The eye is the local authority. Sheriff and a deputy'd be my guess. You notice she had one hand in her pocket, which means they're hiding something. And the other hand made into a fist, which means they're going to be belligerent. Lil was walking in place, which means there's going to be a lot of legwork involved. Cole said Lil was his mother's sister's girl. Now what's missing in that sentence? The uncle. Not Cole's uncle, but probably the sheriff's uncles in federal prison. Let me ask you something, Stanley. Did you notice anything about the dress?
The dress was altered to fit her. I noticed a different colored thread where the dress was taken in.
Gordon said you're good. Tailored dresses are code for drugs.
Oh,
You notice what was pinned to it?
a blue rose?
Good. But I can't tell you about that.
Can't?
All right, that's
No, I
basically
can't.
it. I've so like I say, I have a theory about this scene, this sequence, and it's in relation to the series, and so obviously like Lynch's whole style is he kind of just follows his instincts a lot of the time. It seems he talks about plucking ideas out of the air, and any interviews you see with cast or anybody really, where they discuss like, oh, I wanted to ask David like what was the point of this scene, or this type of thing, or what is the meaning of what we're doing, or what's happening around this scene, and he's just like, but no, it's not, like, whatever, go away. Like, he just refuses, and particularly with interviewers like academics or journalists, he really doesn't like interpreting his own work, because he doesn't sit there with a pen and pad and is like, okay, I'm going to put this symbol in here and this means this. This is not what he does.
Yeah. No.
So for me, this scene is harking back to the series when they finally solve all the mysteries of like the dreams and all this stuff in I believe it's episode 9 of season 2, when they have the big meeting at the Roadhouse, and Leland and Ben are there, and Bobby's there, and I think
Oh yeah. Okay.
Major Briggs is there maybe, and they bring the old man who plays Mose in The Searchers, the old man from the first episode of season 2, who the waiter from the Great Northern. So they're all there, and I think it's this scene as well, is where he basically explains what everything means about like the owls. The owls are not what they seem and all this stuff. He just literally explains that means this, and like the gum you like is coming back in style, which is a great confusing line that's said early on in the first season by the Arm. So my theory is that this, like, as much as Lynch, has this whole aura of, I love, like, just plucking ideas out and whatever, I feel like this is really his statement of, fuck your interpretations, fuck those bastards who are interpreting, because the only really relevant thing here is the blue rose, and that is something that is not explained in this movie at all.
No, not at all.
And yet it becomes it's one of the major kind of ongoing mysteries, and they kind of explain what it is in the third season, The Return, but they really don't at all say what it means in this movie, and it is a recurring image. And even at the Cannes Film Festival, at the after parties and stuff, all the cast and crew had like the blue rose pinned on their lapels. Apparently, I've seen some pictures of that, so it's like an abiding image. But that's my theory. My theory is he is taking the piss out of this desire for people to have the mysteries explained to them, because the mysteries, you're shown the mysteries there, Lil the dancer, and then they're immediately explained, so you don't think about it and you don't care anymore. Like, nothing comes out of it after that.
I think he did do a bit of that, because earlier in the film, someone smashes the television, and that's another image thing.
It's the first shot.
TV.
First shot of the movie.
Yeah, first shot. That's right. It's the first shot. And that's clear, right? It's like, okay, I'm getting out of this fucking box. I'm back to
not
my
a subtle
medium,
image,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and not very subtle at all. So I think that's probably a possibility. I think that can hold some water. The Blue Rose, like, luckily I'd never seen the what do you call it? The deleted scenes, and Kiefer Sutherland's character mentioned that he even asks, and then he doesn't get an answer, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, but the Blue Rose and its color, I know it's mentioned in season 2. Briggs talks about it, because Briggs is this high clearance guy from the military. I think it's him that mentions Project Blue Book, which is a real thing. It's like the FBI or CIA's apparent alien files or whatever.
Like the X-Files, basically.
The X-Files, which, talk about that another time, but yeah. So the Blue Rose, I mean, for me anyway, when I see that, that's what I thought of.
That's basically what it is. It's basically the code name for the investigation of these mysterious goings on.
Yeah, mysterious shit. Like you said, the X-Files is a great way to put it. Yeah, it's basically his way to say the X-Files. Before they went and took it from him.
Before they stole the concept from this series.
Before they entirely stole the concept and even shot it here in Vancouver, the Pacific Northwest.
Before they invented the Vancouver film industry, It all comes back to Twin Peaks. Before the X-Files basically invented the Vancouver film and television industry.
Hey now, it was MacGyver. I'll say it straight, it was MacGyver. Yeah, MacGyver. That was the big one here. All the old guys I talked to. You worked on MacGyver? Yeah, I guess. And then X-Files and all that other crap, Battlestar. But anyway, that's for another day. So yeah, that's like the fun first 40 minutes or hour of this film. You meet Agent Desmond, Chris Isaac.
And well, while we're here, why don't we talk about the wonderful Harry Dean Stanton?
Oh my God,
good
I love
in
him.
this.
I love him. I fucking love him. He's a Lynch, like, not a mainstay, but Lynch used him often. He used
A
him in The
linchpin,
Straight
if
Story.
you'd like.
A linchpin, hey! He was in.
I'm leaving now. Goodbye. No, I won't.
Walking out on a high note.
Yeah.
He was in. I don't think you got a chance to saw it. I assume because I couldn't find it anywhere to rewatch it. He was in Wild at Heart. He
Oh, yeah.
plays a good guy. He was in this. He plays a good guy, and in The Straight Story, he plays. Well, have you seen The Straight Story?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, and he plays the brother at the end, who's also a good guy. I think David Lynch just liked Harry Dean Stanton. I think he just thought he was a good chap, and I'm so happy you used him because I love Harry Dean Stanton. I love seeing him.
And it's a lovely performance because he's just this. He's when Agent Desmond shows up at his it is him, yeah. And he shows up at his thing before 9 a.m. or whatever the time on his door is that you're not allowed to knock. And he's just like, there's just one more thing I have to do today. And he looks so miserable. It's just wonderful. It's just great.
I think it was Ebert that said he's one of two guys who never ever had a bad performance, Harry Dean Stanton. And everything I've ever watched him, and I love like Repo Man and obviously Paris, Texas, even like Pretty in Pink, he was great in. He's always good. He's a salt of the earth looking guy, and he plays it well.
And
but yeah, great little.
I am happy that he has about as prominent a role in the Return as kind of anybody else.
See that I looked at the cast list and I saw Bowie, and I was like, Bowie, holy shit! I thought he had passed away before they. And same with Harry Dean Stanton. I thought they had passed away before, but I was wrong. My memory is shit.
Well, while we're still on the FBI section of this movie, we should talk about Bowie, because between the actual movie that was released and the missing pieces, the stuff from the missing pieces is so good with Bowie.
Oh my
Bowie's
God.
performance is so good. But then what ends up in the actual movie is like the editing and stuff with it, and he's gone. You cut away and it's like he's gone. And it's just like, it doesn't feel right. It feels like they fucked it up. And I don't quite like the rest of the stuff. I feel is like kind of debatable about how much you could have actually put in with the runtime and stuff. Because the movie comes out currently like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something, which is probably pushing it. That's the kind of pushing it time limit for movies.
Yeah.
But the Bowie stuff doesn't take up that much time of what they actually shot, and it's surprising to me that so much of it didn't end up in there. Particularly just the full performance in the FBI office, because that is so good.
It's really good. It's very strange that it's cut out. I always liked the little. I just considered it a cameo. I haven't watched the new series. It's the only part of Lynch that I haven't watched yet is the new series. I started tomorrow, or the next day, and I always just thought it was a fun cameo in Firewalk with Me, and didn't really read much into it. I mean, it's important clearly, but I didn't think of anything other than okay, he got Bowie to come out. And Bowie doesn't do much stuff like this anymore.
Yeah.
Or he didn't do much stuff like that at all. But looking at the deleted scenes, there's just so much there. Like the stuff in Mexico, and then he comes back to the FBI office, and then he gets fucking shot back to Mexico again. It's kind of strange that so much was cut out, especially the stuff in the FBI office. Like why? You could have left that 2 minutes in there, I think.
Yeah,
but who am I to criticize a master?
The whole thing is 4 minutes, and a lot of the stuff is stuff that actually appears. Like I know it was kind of there was a lot of struggle, I suppose, with because a lot of you watch the missing pieces, and clearly a lot of the cast was cut out. Like Michael Ontkean has scenes, and obviously. Mr. Pete Martell and Josie have a scene with the bank manager from the last episode.
my boy Jack
Which-
Nance, R.I.P.
Which is like, it doesn't add anything, so it makes sense that it was cut out, but it also is really nice that it exists and it's now there for our viewing pleasure.
Yeah.
But yeah, all these cast that were brought in to actually shoot scenes and their stuff was cut out. But yeah, the Bowie stuff is so strange because it adds, I guess it just adds this great element that the series tried to, probably the most successful thing that the series did after Lynch left was the whole making the mystery of Bob and whatever else was going on out there seem like the one of the episodes where the guy from the Air Force says, what's going on out there makes the Cold War look like a picnic or whatever the hell he says. And they did like a decent job in the post-Lynch era of Twin Peaks, kind of building that up. And I think Philip Jeffries has a similar thing where it's like the mystery of his kind of disappearance and reappearance. And of course the great way that it's shot where Kyle MacLachlan's like going out into the hallway and looking at the camera and then going back out, and this weird time thing that the series that we talked about when we looked into episode 7 season 2 with the record playing back and forth and stuff. To me it's a complete mystery why. And I think like obviously Mark Frost did a lot of like the dossiers and these things that really go deep into the character backstories and what happens between the end of the second season and the third season. But I haven't read them, and I think it's kind of like the Star Wars novels. They're kind of fun bits and pieces about the universe, but you don't consider them canon. You just consider them kind of extra little adventures or extra little kind of. If it's something you're really into, it's like it's nice to kind of satiate this thirst you have for more information. But I wouldn't consider any of the stuff even though it's written by Mark Frost. I wouldn't really consider it canon because it's not like for me it's like the visual stuff is what matters.
Yeah, like for me when I was watching the deleted scenes, I just felt like almost all of it could have been there. Like a lot of it, like some stuff with like Bobby and like the laxative and stuff like that obviously doesn't have to be there. And but the one thing I thought I was happy it wasn't there was the very end with Coop when Truman bursts in, him and the doctor,
bathroom?
and they kind of pull him up. Yeah, and they talk to him, and he's very clearly not himself, right?
Yeah.
So I just, I didn't need that. The end of the series, I gleaned that, and it was okay.
Well, that's the
right?
funny thing about it. It's so redundant. Like it adds nothing. Like it gives you
Zero.
like, well, that's what we assume people at the time wanted, or we watching the movie for the first time probably wanted as well. We both originally watched the series before even the return was announced, right? So
yeah,
when we watched it, it was like we kind of had a similar experience to the people at the time, where it's like, okay, so that's the series, so we'll watch the movie and find out something, and then the movie doesn't give you anything about what happens after. But yeah, it's like the missing pieces brings you from Cooper smashing his head into the mirror in the bathroom to 2 minutes later. Like it gives you 2 minutes nothing, later, basically.
And we get obviously his doppelganger or Bob, whoever, I think it's Bob that's possessing him, right? Clearly he's not himself. Like Coop is this different guy. So
yeah,
I mean, it's totally, but it's something that you film, like, you and I have worked in television and film. Like sometimes you just film that extra crap and you do that extra mile and you kind of just have it there and you're like, oh, well, you know what? It's not necessary. We don't need that extra 2 minutes because the mirror's enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's great he put it in there for, like you said, for those folks who just can't get enough of every bit of it or need that little bit more spoon feeding. But yeah, that to me and the Bobby laxative stuff were the only two things where I was like, okay, I can see why this is cut out. But everything else, I was like, hell, maybe I don't mind, like, and this movie really, as much as it dies in the lore, you really see Leland too and how terrifying his whole possession.
While we're still on the missing pieces, there's a great bit with Leland that is cut out with when Laura's sneaking out of the house just before James shows up, And Leland comes
Yeah.
back to the house, and he's like looking. She's hiding in the bushes, and he's like looking directly at her, but not saying or doing anything. And then he walks more to the house, and then looks directly at her again. That's really disturbing. Like, it's really uncomfortable. And
Very, very.
again, it's like, yeah, kind of slows stuff down, I guess, maybe, or whatever. So it makes sense that it was cut out, or it's explicable that it was cut out, but it's still great to look at it and be like, oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah, no,
it's a cool
definitely.
thing to
And
see. Just yeah,
cool thing to see. Yeah, the more the merrier. Why not, right? And Ray Wise is so great as Leland. He's like, he really kind of has the character. The eyes. He just is so terrifying.
yeah,
That yeah, why not? Why isn't that there? But I know why. It's a movie. It's like you said. It's already, an
Yeah.
hour and or sorry, 2 hours and 12 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So
yeah,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah. But yeah, so then the meat of the film then is the Laura Palmer story. And like you said, yeah, Sheryl Lee's performance is so incredibly good that to me it's kind of shocking and not shocking in a way, I suppose. It's shocking to me that she never had this kind of major career, because the sheer range that she shows with this one character. She really does show sides of the character of Laura Palmer that were never really even glimpsed at, or were only kind of referred to. It's actually it kind of has this great element to it. The series, I'd say, having watched the series and comparing it to actually seeing the character in this movie, is, a lot of times after, particularly young people, when they die, it's like the tragedy of their death kind of overshadows anything they may have ever said or done, and they just become this like almost glorified figure. Like they're and that's kind of what it's like. It's like you're in the series, like you kind of know the facts of her story, like her cocaine addiction and her working at the One-Eyed Jacks and all this stuff, all this kind of like seedy underworld stuff that she was involved in. But when people talk about her, it's about, she was the Meals on Wheels girl. She was the helping little Johnny Horn with his whatever his issues, and all the good stuff she did for the people of the town. Whereas in the movie, you really see her, like she's sometimes cruel, particularly to James. She like, it's just all these really interesting. Or she's very, with someone like Bobby, she's very like teasing of him. Like she'll never kind of give her whole self. Or when Donna tries to, save her, she's very like leading. She's like, come on then, come on. If this is what you really want, then follow me into this seedy underworld and we'll see where it goes. She's a very complicated character, in a way that the series kind of makes her almost, this holy figure.
Well, the show, I found the show. What I was so amazed at from this movie after watching the show and then watching her, was how perfectly she actually portrayed what I pictured. Because in the show, but also gave it humanity, actually. So it surprised me in a way that, because in the show you get this idea, like you said, the Meals on Wheels girl, this kind of like angel who also had a dark side, right? This good person who had some demons. Like when you hear, oh, you don't know everything about Laura, she's not what you think, versus what other people thought of her. And in this movie, she toes that line so perfectly. She mistreats people, especially the younger men in her life, the men in her life. But then, we see with Donna, when Donna gets basically roofied, and she sees Donna basically falling down, looking like, she sees herself and what Donna's doing, and just gets the hell out of there. Just grabs her friend and goes, right? And she really, for me in the show, I was like, okay, so Laura was a girl who was probably, a phony, like basically wanted to party and be bad and really just pretended like she was a good person. So she really was more the dark than the light. But this movie shows she was the light. It's just the only way to basically shield herself from the darkness that would be thrust upon her was to make this facade, to make this cocoon, to make it so no one can really come in, right? And she just played that, I think, perfectly, like amazingly. It's a really under what do you want to one of the unsung performances of all time. You
Underappreciated
know, like
performances, yeah,
under,
definitely.
underappreciated for sure because it really subverts my expectations. Like it went above what I expected. Really brought humanity to a character that just could have been, oh, a girl who got in over her head and got knocked off.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that at all. It was a person who was really tormented, by a literal fucking demon, and her own demons,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, this
It's
is
just
what's so great about the approach in this movie, and like I don't really see the term cosmic horror used to describe this movie very often. But to me, that's kind of one of the key elements to it. Is it her situation feels like it's like it really the fact that it has this Bob and the Black Lodge element to it makes it feel genuinely inescapable in a way that it wouldn't feel if you were shooting this in a way that is, say, kind of more neo-realist or kitchen sink style,
yeah,
because in that sense, a lot of the movies that are made in that kind of way feel like you're separated, like quite separated from the subject matter, where you're like watching this and you're almost culpable for being the viewer or the voyeur of this. Like I suppose as much as great as a film as it is, I think Fish Tank kind of has that. I don't know if you ever saw that by Andrea Arnold with
no, I
Michael
didn't actually.
Fassbender. That's a great movie. But it kind of has that element where you're watching this like 16, I think she is, year old girl. You're kind of watching like these parts of her life, and she gets into these fights, and it's kind of directed in such a way that when she starts fighting with people in her neighborhood, you're not with her. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, why is she doing this, or like why is she engaging in this type of way? So there's a kind of an abuse element in that story as well, and I kind of as good of a movie. Yeah, thanks. As good of a movie as that is, it doesn't have this element where it's like the horror feels inescapable. It feels like it is taking up the entire world, and it's the
Yes.
cosmic horror element of it, and that's what I really appreciate about this. It feels like it's a real road forward in terms of dealing with really traumatic stuff, in a way that just this is a life in this is just one person's traumatic life in this kind of wider universe of whatever, just the real world of whatever it is. Whereas Fire Walk with Me is like, this is a person's trauma that is taking up the entire world. It is the world. Her trauma is the entire universe, and the Bob character in the Black Lodge is the entire universe.
And like it's such an amazing commentary on the abuse. Like her father, he mentions, if I remember correct, in the prison cell when he's like, this guy visited me when I was a boy, and
Yeah.
basically says that this happened to him when he was a kid from
Yeah.
Bob. And it's like, of course, it's this cosmic horror element, but the layers to that are amazing. It's really like, and then of course it's generational, these kind of things and these traumas, and it's just you're right. It's really hard to portray it in film or in television without being just this voyeuristic kind of, you're watching this kind of thing from afar, and doing it in this cosmic horror kind of way is a good way to put it, I guess. It really makes that inescapable feeling just so tangible. Like you can just understand it so well.
Yeah.
And it's just all the more heartbreaking, honestly. This is one of his best. I mean, I've watched all of his stuff. I love all of his movies, even the fucking Elephant Man, which I don't really like. But this is like one of his best. He's cheers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something. It's nice kind of having the missing pieces, because it kind of, the whole thing with Twin Peaks is that overall, as an entire work, the two original series and the movie, and then the return, it's really just a giant mess. Like, it's a complete disaster in a way, and yet it is one of the most influential things ever. Like, it's far from perfect. You could never describe it as perfect.
No.
But it is just incredibly compelling. And it really captures Lynch's kind of M.O., modus operandi, to quote Gordon
Modus
Cole.
operandi.
It's just, yeah, it his style being, I guess, like make it up as you go along almost. But
see, it is that. It is make it up as you
Yeah.
go along. But and there's some when you watch like surrealist cinema or like some of these films you watch now or maybe TV shows that try to be like this, it feels like it's so listless. But with Lynch, even though he admits that these are just kind of ideas and he kind of finds a way to bring them together, they feel like there's more to them. Like there's a level of a depth there that isn't with other kind of films that kind of try to imitate him. Maybe it's just his cinematic skills, are just so great that he's
Yeah.
able to do it in such a way that it's just so so compelling to watch. He's great with the camera too. Like we're gonna talk about his influence. Like if you look at old TV shows from the 70s and 80s, 60s, whatever, Twin Peaks, just the cinematography alone is such a groundbreaking thing. The way he shoots that show and how it basically made TV what it is now,
Yeah.
for better
Yeah.
or worse.
And he becomes so
he's-
much more experimental in the second season in the few episodes that he did direct. Like
Mhm.
while I think is it episode, well, it's like the pilot is kind of episode 0 and then there's episode 1 and 2, right? I think that's how it is. So like episode 2 maybe is which is actually the third episode, is like the Red Room. Am I right about that?
I can't recall. I'll have to look it up.
Here,
Use my
I know I
Google
don't want to
powers.
get my facts wrong. So here, let me actually. I'm going to do some quick research on the extremely reliable website called Wikipedia.
I actually read an article today that said Wikipedia is more reliable than you actually think. It's
Oh,
quite
really?
reliable.
No, I'm right.
Yes.
It's episode 2, Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer, which is the third episode overall. That's the Red Room. What was I saying about the Red Room?
Red Room. I don't know. I
Too
lost
worried
my
about
train of thought after
factual.
doing my mad search.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about his his directing of certain episodes?
Oh
then-
yeah, it's like it's really that episode that the kind of more cinematic element really starts to come in. I feel like he is kind of interested in almost like parodying kind of primetime soap operas more in the pilot. And so like I always think of the great scene with Grace Zabriskie, who plays Sarah Palmer, when she finds out about Laura's death. And the perform like a naturalistic performance maybe would be like she's like her head in her hands, or like she just like collapses or is like bent over or something, but it's just like she just sits completely erect and it's just like her face is like this, and it's real like primetime soap opera acting, intentionally. Like I feel like her instincts are telling, when I'm watching that, I'm like her instincts are telling her not to do that because she's a really good actress, but she is doing the soap opera thing, and that's what I feel. That's what's so fascinating is by the second season when you're watching, particularly the last episode, like the finale, he is going super cinematic, really. So even as different as each episode is, and like the episode, season 2, episode 8, which is the after we discover who the killer is. The whole thing is almost shot. Whoever directed that episode, the whole thing is almost shot like in Dutch angles. It's weird. It's such a weird choice. Oh, it's like
it's Caleb Deschanel.
Caleb Deschanel.
His old
Was it
buddy,
him?
like he goes. These are all his old pals. Like Sissy Spacek's his old pal.
Well,
Jack
Caleb
Fisk, all
Caleb
these-
Deschanel was he directed a good few episodes on this, on the original series, and
Yes, he did.
of course his wife played the mother of Donna.
Exactly, yeah. She's
the
a lady-
wheelchair.
She looks just like her daughter. Looks just like her daughter Zoe. And her other daughter, I forget her name. But
Emily,
yeah,
maybe?
Emily, yeah, I think so. She's on that either Bones or Numbers or one of those goddamn shows.
Yeah.
No disrespect, of course. Diane Keaton directed some of these too. I was so shocked to find that out. I was watching it.
She
saw her
directed
name
the
come up.
last one I just watched. When I was rewatching the series, I skipped 10 episodes after Leland's discovered as the murderer, but then I went back and yesterday I watched like 5 of the 10 episodes I missed. And she directed the last one I did, and there's like it's one of the ones where she really prominently features Evelyn, James's love interest.
Yes.
She keeps, for some reason, she keeps like putting in this shot of Evelyn with like the funeral veil thing over her face, just randomly like popping it in there. It appears like 3 times outside of context. It's really bizarre. I don't think Diane Keaton directed very much in her entire life, did she?
No, I don't think so. But I was gonna say something because I watched this the series when I was a teenager, and I rewatched it again with my sister and her boyfriend, and we were kind of doing it almost weekly for like the last little while. So for like a year almost, I guess 8 months, 9 months. So I've kind of been watching it like the old TV show used to come out, like kind of weekly or something like that. And while watching the film again, I noticed how many close-ups he used. Like just the sheer number of close-ups that Lynch used in that film. I don't remember the TV show using that many at all. I really couldn't recall. Like a lot of them are 2 shots, right? A lot of them are even like some of the close-ups are kind of medium close-ups. But this movie, you had some Dutch angle close-ups on Laura and on all kinds of characters. He really used that shot more than I can ever remember. Entire series, and I think that was another departure from his leaving the TV and getting back into the big screen, the cinema. He really wanted to, like his whole.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
sorry, go
definitely
ahead.
he was not interested in kind of emulating a television aesthetic in the slightest. Like it's a very cinematic film.
Like his old buddy Fellini, loves the close up. He was really playing with that in this film a lot. I mean, it's so effective because the high emotion of the second half of the film. And he almost, because the start does seem like the TV show, and he walks right out of there into this just last week of her life.
Yeah, what do you think about the overall structure of the film? Because with the FBI stuff, it's so weird, and like the FBI stuff almost makes it not work as a standalone movie because it just vanishes.
It does, yeah, no, and that's why I said I don't know how anyone ever paid for this because someone's got to. Like, there's not that many Twin Peaks fans in the world. Like, when producers are being themselves, they're like, "How we need butts in the seats and all that crap." And if you
well, let me just say this: the viewership for the final episode of season 2, which was when the series had completely fallen off, was like 10 million viewers, and the pilot got 34 million viewers originally.
Yeah, I know the pilot was huge. And I was reading about the show about how they put it on like Thursday, which is like the death slot. And if they had kept it on Wednesday, it would have kept its.
I mean, isn't that the story of so many TV shows?
Oh my
It's
God!
like
Yes,
the executives just like changing it constantly. Imagine like we experienced television very differently in Ireland than Americans did, where we just kind of got things like 2 years after they were finished. So we just got to watch. There was no issues about like it's like spacing it out or timing or whatever. It was just like, yeah, it's gonna be, here's 2 episodes on Saturday, whatever. Yeah. So it's funny to learn about the way that worked for these things. Well, but yeah, it's very much a case of
I mentioned MacGyver, but MacGyver was something was the first show I remember really loving as like a 5-year-old because it's like a silly show. Any little kid can watch it. He fights bad guys that have guns with like toothpicks and a goddamn lamp, and he's like, I'm gonna thwart them that way, right? But I remember very, very distinctly just waiting up on certain night. Oh, this is MacGyver night, and it was a whole like event thing. It was like that is like over now, obviously, and even Seinfeld was another one. Where it was just every Thursday night, you knew it was coming. You stayed up late, you pretended you were asleep, and then you'd fucking turn it on and see Kramer be funny. And also, it's another show as a decide that, first of all, uses so many David Lynch actors. I know Larry David has to be a big fan of Twin Peaks and David Lynch because he uses a bunch of the actors, whether it be the Doctor, Grace, I forget her name, Sarah Palmer. Like, there's so many actors he uses. But that show almost didn't exist because of the way they scheduled it. And then they put it in a good time slot, and that's all it took. So, like you said, how many great shows just died out because the executives just didn't know how to use their own medium? And they're like, oh, we're going to put it up against
That's what's really good about the Blu-ray set that I have is they have the promos and stuff where they're like, Twin Peaks is going to Wednesday. Twin Peaks is going to, like, Kyle MacLachlan doing the ad or whatever. But yeah, my experience with television was very different. The shows that's like, if I'm thinking of shows for me that sound like what you were talking about with MacGyver. It was like Quantum Leap.
Oh
And
God, another one. I love that show. What a show!
but that was like Saturday morning. I'd wake up on Saturday morning and Quantum Leap would be on. So it was never like, oh, Wednesday night, it's Quantum Leap time. It's like, oh, I just woke up. I guess I watched this show
What a
about a
show.
guy, it's a guy being a woman in 1750 or whatever it is. Well,
Yeah.
usually it was like
Or he's a
1950 or that. Never went too
yeah,
far back in
he's
time.
like a naval officer in 1941, just before he had to ship off, and he's
Or the other
you
the
know,
other Saturday morning show was the one where the cat delivers a newspaper about today's news. He gets the newspaper like a day in advance. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I did not.
That was
I
set
just
in New York,
remember
I
a
think.
No, I don't remember that one. We had a bunch of
Uh,
crazy shit in Canada. We got like a mix of American stuff, and then like the show The Littlest Hobo about a dog that would go from town to town, like saving people, and then go to the next town. Made
yeah.
no sense, but it was a show I used to wake up to watch. It was literally about a hobo dog, and yeah, so that's Canada.
Well,
I digress.
the funny thing is, like, when you start really getting into film properly, um, I guess when you talk to kind of people you know about it who are not that into movies, they're kind of like, there's almost a sense of like, well, are you not able to appreciate just dumb movies anymore? It's like I'm really able to appreciate dumb movies. Like I can go see Avengers or whatever and get something out of it. The thing I can't appreciate anymore is dumb TV shows because it's just such a time commitment. And like I would never be
Yeah.
able to watch Quantum Leap anymore.
No, and the thing is, like, I've watched all that, and I've watched MacGyver. Like, I've gone back and watched last year during the pandemic when it was really at the height. I started watching The Simpsons again, and I found those infinitely
I
watchable.
mean, that show is just genius.
It is, yeah. First 10 seasons, there's nothing better. But you're right. Other shows like silly ones, like there's. I don't think I could. I think I saw MacGyver a few years ago, and I was like, how the fuck was this my favorite show like ever? I remember I taped the whole like final half of the thing. I still have it on tape to my mother and father's house. It was like I was like 6 or 7 years old. It was barely even anything, but I just loved that show. And you're right. It's so silly. It just there's too much time to
Yeah.
waste on a show. Like not waste. It just takes too much time to get into it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's just a big time commitment. And I guess that's a part of the thing that was making the rewatch of Twin Peaks difficult for me was that element of it where it's like so much like that's what I said is like the first 3 episodes have almost everything that you will remember about the series. And while there is like episode 7 season 2 where we find out who the killer is, the last scene in that is great. Like that's a Lynch directed episode, and the last scene in that is fantastic. With the
it's one of the best of the whole
Roadhouse.
series.
Yeah,
It's one of the
it is,
best
yeah.
of the whole series. It's
Yeah.
so amazing.
And actually, what was funny for me was the fact that I remembered so much of what happened in the very last episode, like the whole stuff with the bank, and because that was one of the questions. I remember that was one of the questions I had going into the return was what the hell happened to Audrey after the bank blows up.
Yeah. Yeah. Is she
because
alive?
like you get the impression that Pete Martell is dead from that because he was right there. And of course,
once again, R.I.P. Jack Nance, my boy.
Yeah, Jack Nance was dead by the time the return started filming. So
he died in '95 or so. He's Lynch's like avatar before he found Kyle MacLachlan. MacLachlan. I think he actually wanted Nance to play the Elephant Man or something. I read, and they were like, no. No, that's not going to happen. You got to play a British man.
It's weird with John Hurt in there, and you're like, well, do I really know that that's John Hurt under all that makeup? Like,
no.
It's a bit like the Ghost Story, with Casey Affleck, where you're like, is this really Casey Affleck standing under the sheet for an hour and a half or whatever, an hour and 20 minutes? You don't really know. You'll never really know. They say it is, but
was it? Casey
Affleck, because it starts small. You're on the set and you're like, the actor's not ready yet, and you're like, well, we got the stand-in. He's in the sheet. Let's just shoot him with the stand-in, and then it kind of starts snowballing. By day 100, you don't even see the main actor anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But I wanted to play. I wanted to play one of my favorite scenes from the movie. This has an element to it that is one of the really weird elements about the movie. Once again, can you hear this? It's like
I
music.
feel nothing. I hear nothing.
You hear nothing?
No, but it's okay. I know all the scenes pretty well. If you just play it, I'll be able to. Are you gonna play it on the big thing for everybody?
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if you can hear it. But yeah, what's interesting, I guess just to prepare your mind, the sound mixing in this movie is quite unusual for a movie, and I guess this is one of my favorite scenes in it, but it really captures that element as well. So let's watch this this video called "Best Scene in Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me." Okay, I guess that's where I stole my opinion.
Oh.
Dad, is the engine on fire? It smells like something's burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene is incredible, but the sound mixing in that makes it almost impossible to hear what's actually being
Yes.
said. Like
Yeah.
after watching it now like 4 or 5 times since I rewatched the movie, I can hear that Mike is shouting, "You stole the corn! You stole my can of corn from over the store." So this is Mike, who is, friends with Bob or acquainted with
he's like
Bob.
he's like an adversary of Bob, a former friend of Bob.
It's
He's like
almost
his
like
adversary.
it's almost like the Paradise Lost thing. It's like Lucifer used to
Mm.
be the Lucifer
Man,
used to
man.
be the Man of Man's back in.
Man.
Like Lucifer used to be like one of God's angels, and now they're like adversaries. It's almost that sort of dynamic.
Well, I mean, if my understanding of the lore is correct, that's what the arm is, right? Because didn't he cut off the arm that was connected him to Bob, right?
Yeah.
Like there's that whole thing. And that's like the little guy, our little buddy there, Mr. Anderson, is the arm.
Yeah.
And what I was always clear was she is warning Laura, Leland, your father is Bob.
Yeah.
Leland, your
That's
father
where it
is
kind of
Bob.
goes, but it's so funny that it just starts with this. He's just like pissed off that Bob stole his can of corn.
Well, what? Okay, don't they?
But like
mention
the point is like that's kind of what the dialogue is, but you can't tell. Like the actual the content of the dialogue is not relevant to Lynch at this time because it's you can't hear what's happening. The important thing is that there's like a panic attack, and it's like the most incredibly poignant representation of a panic attack I think I've ever seen in a film. That's what's so good about it.
Yeah. As someone who used to get those periodically with the ear thing, it's another good like artistic representation of something that's really hard to show without doing something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like everything just goes like you can't even hear. It's just like nothing. everything gets blocked out except for all the noise, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean. Like everything,
Yeah.
it's a rush, like a symphony of noise, like a cacophony, and you're just like, you know,
Yeah.
you can't stop it, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh man, Lynch is really on fire. You know, Jesus Christ, he's on fire in this movie. Listen to me,
Get
God.
out of here. Get the hell
I'm
out
done.
with
Done.
that.
See you later.
He's leaving.
Look, you had a linchpin. I got that. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter what's being said, but it is important, which is strange. Like it's, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like it doesn't
the
matter,
other
but
scene-
it's important.
The other scene that has this kind of weird sound mixing is it's not One Eye Jacks, but it's like when Laura and Donna are brought to this other
Oh, and they use the
place.
subs.
Yeah, and they're using the subtitles.
Yeah.
And the music is blaring, and Jacques, what's his name?
Jacques de
What's his
Molay.
last name?
No, I call him Jacques de Molay, but it's not his name. Jacques Rivet. No,
One of the brothers, anyway.
another Seinfeld steal. He played the cable man in one of the episodes of Seinfeld.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he loved the French Canadian accent. that he
Jacques
pulled off.
Renault.
Jacques Renault, that's his fucking name, Jacques Renault. I love that French Canadian accent. It's fucking hilarious.
And I can't show the scenes from that because they're not Twitch friendly. But
Shit!
that
I lost my
that
headphone and I'm gonna die. 1 sec.
oh no.
Okay, I'm
But
good.
yeah,
I had to get
that's
my...
another one that is the sound mixing is just unusual because usually you see you see nightclub scenes in movies and stuff, but you can always hear the dialogue crisply. Usually in nightclub scenes.
If you've ever been in a nightclub,
Yeah.
is that not a perfect representation of a nightclub scene
Completely.
to you?
It's so realistic.
It's so realistic.
But that's what's funny is like Lynch doesn't shoot that way though. He doesn't shoot in a way where the music is literally actually blaring on the set and people are shouting. Like that's all down to the mixing. Or like what would be more, or a director who I think probably would be more inclined to do the actuals, like we're actually playing the music and you have to shout your dialogue, would probably be someone like Altman, I'd say.
Oh yeah, definitely. More up his alley.
I think it's such a particular thing to this movie. He doesn't do it in his other movies, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Not that I can. No, he doesn't do it in Wild at Heart. I can't recall. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Mulholland
Yeah,
Drive.
it's
I
just
haven't watched
interesting.
Mulholland
It's just
Drive in a while.
it's just a kind of a fun thing to note, I suppose.
Yeah, and another thing I just to note: don't you find the performances in this film by all the television actors, like even my favorite actor of all time, the guy who plays Leo Johnson, even he is better in the film than he is in the TV show, and I think that's down to the fact that it's not a 5-day turnover to make the episode. Like he had time to get the performances he wanted, right? Very much from those actors, like, and that's how Lynch works, right? I watched some behind the scenes, very short clip from the new ones, just out of context stuff, just him directing. And the thing he kept saying is emotion. I need emotion. And I want this, I want it with emotion. And that's something that's hard to do on a TV set in 4 or 5 days, and you're just trying to get all your scenes, right? And as we know about the guy, he just wants to get what he wants to get, right? And I think he had time to finally direct these people. And you can really see it, like with Bobby Briggs especially. Everybody. They're much better.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, Bobby is, like, I think Dan Ashbrook's very good. Well, I guess this is the thing I wanted to say about Sheryl Lee was that, for me, like, the reason that she didn't, with the performance she put in this movie, which is really incredible, like, it's, like, she manages to capture so many sides of this person and still make it feel like the same person. Like, it never feels like she's betraying the character, despite the fact that she's going from, like, a victim of incest and sexual abuse to, this promiscuous, basically call girl to, this Meals on Wheels girl to, every part of this
someone who
character
will
that she
laugh
plays.
to someone who will laugh maniacally at a murder. Like she just, that's what I mean when she just toes this line. And the thing is, what literally these cosmic forces that are just constantly in her fucking ear, constantly around her, and constantly threatening her. Like it's just, it's really a unique performance and something not many people could pull that off. I don't think.
Yeah.
Not many actors.
But like for me,
it's
the
amazing.
only reason the only reason I say, there could be many reasons. One of which being that she was not interested in a career as a superstar actor or whatever. But um, it has this element for me of the TV thing again, which is one of the many downsides to television shows. And I feel the same thing with James Gandolfini, where it's like, this is a person who's known for a TV show. Therefore, even though we can cast them in movies because, a director, like say like Edgar Wright saw some greatness in John Hamm from Mad Men and put him in Baby Driver.
Baby Driver, yeah.
Like, he's never going to shed the skin of Don Draper. And James Gandolfini was never able to shed the skin of Tony Soprano. And Laura Palmer was never going to leave Cheryl Lee. She was always going to be connected with that character.
Definitely.
And I feel like that was probably a huge... Say that again?
I wanted to say one thing about Gandolfini. He was good in everything he ever was in. Every single role he was good in.
And he was excellent.
And he was distinct. Like, he was never... Like, you can really see that Tony Soprano was a fucking character that he played. Like,
yeah,
it was
well, I mean, the point is that they're such great actors. I mean, the weird thing about Cheryl Lee, I suppose, is that, well, she was a prominent actor in the series as Maddie, which I think is, as well as a great addition to the show, was when Cheryl Lee appears as the kind of Laura stand-in almost, and Maddie gives James and Donna almost purpose in the show that they wouldn't have had if Maddie had never shown up.
But it also plays that thing where you're talking about the soap opera play up. Like, it's just such a soap opera trope to bring in the cousin.
Isn't like Sarah Palmer's like watching a daytime soap opera talking about this actress plays Jewel and Sapphire, or like Jade and Sapphire, and then literally Maddie walks into the scene.
That's the famous soap opera within the show. I forget. It's like Intuition or something. It's called. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. But I think it's like Lynch is clearly and Frost are clearly making fun of it. But I think there's also a
Invitation to Love.
That's what it's called. And they're definitely making fun of that. But I feel like soap operas play into Lynch. His motifs and his what he talks about in his films overall, like Americana, and the Middle America, the Midwest, and the seedy underbellies that undercut all that. Soap operas are nothing if not ridiculous dramatic interpretations of that kind of crap. Although I remember my mom used to like them when I was a kid. On her days off from nursing, she'd watch them. I was like, "What in the hell are these things? This is just." Do they have those over there in Ireland? Do they have?
We watched the British ones, Coronation Street and EastEnders, and even the Australian ones like Home and Away and Neighbours. The American ones tend not to.
Coronation Street was huge. My parents used to watch that every weekend, and that fucking theme music is bolted in my brain.
Well, yeah. What was the Secrets and Lies? Do you know the?
Oh yeah.
Do you know the what's Timothy? Timothy Spall plays like a photographer, like a portrait photographer in that movie. And there's a scene in Secrets and Lies where Timothy Spall, it shows him taking the photos of these various people. And there's
great scene.
One of those shots is one of the really, it's not Ken Barlow, I don't think. It's one of the actors who was really, no, not Ken Barlow. Fuck, what was the name of him? There was an actor who was really prominent in Coronation Street for years and years and years, and he was just like a random person in a group in that movie.
That's a great.
It was the weirdest, funniest thing. Oh, it was this guy, Roy Cropper.
Roy Cropper. I just remember my parents saying,
I gotta show his picture here. Oh no, I don't want to show anything from the Daily Star. What a shit show.
I don't know what the Daily Star.
But here he is. Let me. There he is. There's Mr. Roy Cropper. He appears. It's like in a group with like. It's like a barbershop group or like something. But he's one of the people that Timothy Spall photographs in his portrait place. It's really funny. I like laughed so hard when I saw him. Cause yeah, he's one of the main guys in Coronation Street.
I
Yeah.
only know the theme music because my parents used to watch it and they'd be like, "Oh, you're too young." And I was like, "All right, bye. I don't want to watch this crap anyway."
If I was able to show stuff, on the Criterion channel, I would literally go find that one shot of him in that movie, but it doesn't show up on Google image search, unfortunately. So.
So we'll leave Stephen Cropper, or is that his name? Ray Cropper. We'll leave it at that.
That was Roy Cropper was the character's
Cropper.
name. The actor's name was David Nielsen, apparently.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what's great about Mike Lee. You know, you all of these, well, mostly now it's like Harry Potter actors. You're like, oh, there's the Harry Potter actor.
Yeah, there's another Harry Potter guy.
He's like doing something horrifying to somebody.
You mean in Harry Potter? You mean being in Harry Potter? Those fucking awful movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those I'm glad those actors got paid. You know, they all deserve.
Oh hell
it.
yeah! Oh hell yeah! No. I'm not. Nothing wrong with that. Go get paid.
I don't think Leslie Manville was in a Harry Potter movie though, so I'm glad PTA came along and put her in something good.
Popped her in there.
Yeah.
In the great whatchamacallit, the Thread, the Phantom.
Cyril.
Underappreciated PTA movie. Oh yeah, let's move on. Back to Lynch, the boy, the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really enjoyed it. Good to watch again. Would recommend to all. And it's a great little piece of Twin Peaks, the mythos, you know, whatever you want to call it. And apparently it's an important part of the new series that I'm going to watch on Sunday night.
Yeah. So this coming Tuesday, we're going to start a new streaming series here, where we're going to talk about Twin Peaks: The Return, and we're going to do episodes 1 and 2. Yeah. Probably after that, we're going to do one episode a week, I'd say. But yeah, Tuesday. We haven't really discussed the time, but preemptively 7 p.m. Eastern, possibly 4 p.m. West Pacific. I don't know. We'll talk about it. That's our. We'll keep that as our whatever.
Yeah, that's a good time for me.
Now.
Let me just check my schedule. Yeah, we're good. Totally good.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Twin Peaks: The Return on Tuesdays. So you want to watch that? I think because I'll be doing my rewatch and Dan will be doing his first time watch. So we're going to get kind of a. I kind of want to load all the hard work onto you and make you kind of give your impression before I say anything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Knowing where the show goes every week.
The Suburban Realist is back at it again. I can't wait to fucking watch.
Yeah.
The legend.
But that's where we're going. But I think we're going to take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we're going to discuss the wider works of David Lynch and also the incredibly pervasive and profound influence that Twin Peaks has had on the television and film industry since. So, if you'll bear with us a brief moment while we, you know.
We're human, right? BRB.
we're back.
The return.
The jazz fades away,
Fade away, jazz.
and we're back. Yeah, before I forget, I finally started a second YouTube channel that has our some of our VODs on there.
Hey.
It's called City Absurdia Livestream VOD.
Hell yeah.
And it's got our Juliet of the Spirits, which we did last week, which is a movie that has preyed on my mind since, to be honest. Claire's Knee and Ugetsu in Late Spring. Those are the 3 videos currently featured on there. It's the full video, so
Great.
you are ever interested in, I'm gonna pop it in the chat here. If you're ever interested in checking out some previous episodes, this is our real polished stuff. This is when we were like really like, you know, in the mood, in the vibe, similar to this episode. Just everything's flowing lovely.
Yeah.
So
The
go
early-
and
the early
go
stuff,
subscribe to
I
that
was
channel
just-
if you want to keep an eye on our Stinky Cheese. Yeah.
Yeah. The early stuff, I was just smoking all kinds of stinky cheese, didn't know what was going on. I'm here normal again, you know. I'm back on the hard drug, so we're good.
Well, the
I'm gonna
the early episodes were very much technical disasters. No, that's a bit
Possibly.
strong, but it was kind of ugly. It's nice. We have this little graphic going on. It's a bit nicer looking. So
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
whatever. So this one will be up there sometime tomorrow, I guess. If you're not interested in watching VODs on whatever Twitch, it's a bit more easy to watch stuff on YouTube. So that's there. That's my second channel. I also have my main channel, which has video essays, but my last one I made like 6 years ago. So
That is forever ago.
that's 5 years ago was my last one.
It's like 18% of my life ago.
Yeah, getting owled. Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong about that, my duckling friend.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess while we're here, so like I said, we're doing next Tuesday. We're doing Twin Peaks: The Return, aka season 3, episodes 1 and 2. We're gonna have a debriefing of those 2 episodes, and then next Friday we're talking about Magnolia.
Magnolia.
So we're gonna do Magnolia, the great PTA movie, which I've watched only once, and I'm excited to get back into. Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait. Cannot
It
wait.
is currently available for me to watch on Cineplex, so I gotta rent it
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
for $5. Okay, so yeah,
With every
Uh,
penny.
yeah. So we'll be checking that out. That'll be our Friday movie next week.
Come on out.
Come on out and have a watch, and yeah, you'll enjoy that. But anyway, yeah, for now, we're still talking about Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, and we're talking about the wider works of Mr. David Lynch and the
Indeed.
influences or whatever, just stuff outside the immediate movie itself that we're talking about. So yeah,
Yeah.
do you have something you want to throw out there?
No, I've watched all his stuff. I mean, the first thing I watched actually of his was, I think, Mulholland Drive. It was either Mulholland Drive or Twin Peaks, one of the two. One
Yeah.
brought me to the other. I can't remember which. I was in high school. And Eraserhead actually I came to later, much later than the other stuff. And then I, got to Lost Highway, which was kind of a personal favorite, I guess. A lot of people hate that movie, but I always enjoyed it, especially some really key scenes. And then I went to film school, met some other folks, and heard about Wild at Heart and the Straight Story. Straight Story is actually a great movie. If no one's ever watched it, it's so not like his stuff. And it's a departure in that, like, The Elephant Man is a departure from his style in a way, but it still has pieces of him with the kind of the obviously the body transfer, the grotesqueries of the character and of the world and of Victorian England at the time. And the way he shoots it is a little bit, tiny bit surreal, I guess. Some stuff with the elephants and stuff, a little bit I remember. But the Straight Story is really, you would never Oh, The Straight Story? Yeah, I think it was a Disney film. Actually, and
Yeah,
it's
and it's not
really
available on Disney Plus either, which is weird.
no. I tried to get it this week, and I was fucking pissed. I thought I have Disney stupid ass Plus. Why would you not put that movie on there? But that's actually a great movie. It really is, and it's like Richard Farnsworth. Shout out to the Gray Fox, the great Canadian Western film, The Gray Fox. He was the star.
Yes.
But excuse me, that film is just it's fantastic. It really is. It's something, and it's such a departure from the rest of his stuff. It's its own little thing, and it's charming. It's such a charm. I think he might have did it as a favor to his ex-wife. I don't know why he did it. I have no clue, but you know what? He did it well, and it's really something to go check out. It's something you're not going to expect. But then you have his other films, which is the bulk of his work, the stuff that you think of when you think of Lynch, which is like Mulholland Drive, like I said, Lost Highway, Wild at Heart, which is like, it's an intense film. I mean, a lot of people. Another one that like his films really have have a way of dividing people more than anybody else. I think, especially the critics. Like my favorite critic, Ebert, and some other ones like Pauline Kael, they all kind of hated him a lot.
Well, there's a famous quote from Quentin Tarantino about Fire Walk With Me, where he said, "This is when I realized Lynch was so far up his own ass," and you're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
what a ridiculous take.
Yeah, I disagree with that, and I think he even said that he loved him too. Like he qualified it with that, that he loved the guy, but he didn't like him anymore. It's like, well, this movie made you think that? Like,
I mean, I guess I could almost understand it in terms of, Tarantino's like fresh off the presses at this point. This is like pre-Pulp Fiction. So he's like, oh, movie's got to be this, movie's got to be that. And it's very like I suppose Fire Walk With Me is very like, it treats violence in a way that's very serious, whereas Tarantino doesn't. Ebert Roast the Blue Velvet. Yeah, Ebert's Roast the Blue Velvet was mostly to do with Isabella Rossellini.
Yeah.
He just became, for some reason, this white knight for that scene where she shows up at Laura Dern's house naked, and he just, for some reason, that just triggered him completely. And you're like, this makes perfect sense in the context of this character. Is like he's a fairly young fella, exploring the sexual side of his character for the first time properly, or like the seedy side of his own nature for the first time. And so, Laura Dern for him in that movie, for Colin McLaughlin's character in that movie, is this like, my future wife, and this like holy, like there's literally a scene in the movie where they're in a car beside a church and there's like angel music playing while she's talking. Compared to like Isabella Rossellini becomes this like she's like the nightclub singer, the like seedy, like he sees all this like disturbing sexual stuff with her. So the horror for Kyle MacLachlan's character of her showing up in front of Laura Dern is just like, whatever. It works as a concept. That's the thing.
But the
he
thing
hated
is,
Hopper's character. Well, I mean, you're supposed to hate Hopper's character. Like, grow up, Roger Ebert.
The thing is, for as much as he hated Blue Velvet, he despised Wild at Heart, and Lost Highway, I think, made him lose faith in movies almost. Like, he hated all those works. He hated them. Hated them. But then he watched Mulholland Drive, and he was like, okay, this makes up for all of it. He loved Mulholland Drive.
It's hard to kind of quantify that he would be so, like, the Mulholland Drive of all movies would be the one who's like, oh yeah, this makes sense, I get it.
But that's what I like about Ebert. I think he was always very honest about what he thought. Like he had a pretty good read on the movies as a critic, and he just thought what he thought what a movie should be, kind of thing. And I remember reading his one about Wild at Heart, and it was like, if Lynch ever wants to be honest about what he really wants to say, then I think he'll make a good movie. I think maybe he felt that with Mulholland Drive, that he was being more honest than he had before, perhaps, with what he was doing. But I love Wild at Heart. I love Lost Highway, and I love Blue Velvet. I think they're all so idiosyncratic and fucking insane. And I don't ever take movies as any kind of moral. I don't think there's any kind of moral ground as to what a movie should be. I take it for what it is as I watch it. And Wild at Heart especially has like this very. I think it kind of cuts into what Lynch is like. He sees all these seedy things and these terrible, um, how the world is like in that scene with Blue Velvet where you see the beautiful, the opening scene. I think it is the beautiful
picket fence.
picturesque lawn, and then you see the fucking bugs underneath, like the these terrible, terrifying creatures. I think in his heart, though, I think he thinks that what he wants is maybe like a happy ending or something, a silver lining almost. Like, and that's what you kind of get with Wild at Heart, a little bit. Oh, no, more than a little bit. You get it. And Lost Highway is a different story. Lost Highway is like a preamble to what Mulholland Drive became. And I think it's why he was able to do something like the Straight Story and not make it look, and do it well, do it in a way that was like earnest and believable, and the performances were great. And the only film that maybe stands out to me that I don't really love is, like I said, Elephant Man, and also Inland Empire, which I rewatched and didn't like as much as I used to like. I rewatched that a while back after you said something, and I was like, oh, this is kind of it wore off or something. I wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling it. But like all the other filmmakers we talked about, I still enjoy watching his shit more than anybody. Like even a bad movie of his, I'd turn on before most other movies, just to watch him play, because he's a great technical filmmaker. I think his shots and stuff are so beautiful most of the time, and so well done. And his push-ins and his close-ups and even the performances—they're all very Lynchian, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, speaking of Inland Empire, I mean, yeah, for me that's the one that I'm not really about that movie. But
Yeah.
let me play this real quick.
Do it up.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah.
So this is from behind the scenes of Inland Empire.
I'm so depressed I don't know what I'm doing. I have not got a clue.
What do you mean?
For the overall. It's an experiment.
Yeah.
That makes
That's about
sense.
it.
That
He's
makes sense.
like Inland Empire. If you watch the behind the scenes of Mulholland, maybe I want to show this as well. There's like a great behind the scenes of Mulholland Drive. But Mulholland Drive is this huge, just like proper Hollywood movie with a proper huge crew and stuff. And Inland Empire is real stripped back. Like he has like a handful of crew really. But for me, it's really not a great movie. I watched it once and I pretty much hated it, I would say. Which, out of however many movies is fine. But
yeah.
That you'll know.
Man, the legend. Damn straight, King Man.
here, I want to play this scene from the Mulholland Drive behind the scenes. I think this is so funny.
Light it up.
Here we go. Wait, full screen. Here we go.
Whoop.
And no, because she's got it. It's all on you. But you just here's the love, and you look at her in a certain way, then you like. A little bit.
That is somebody has stepped into the realm where they should not have gone. The behind the scenes filmmaker was like, "Oh shit."
I cut out a little bit there. What was said? I couldn't even hear that.
Oh, Lynch is just given direction, and then he sees the person doing the behind the scenes video. Here, let me get it in the standard view. He sees the person given the behind the scenes, just in his eye line. He sees them.
Does he say anything? I couldn't hear the
No,
audio.
he just looks at them. He just looks. He's like, no, you're too close now. There he is. He looks. And they're like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. He's
it's
not
real
happy.
film set stuff. It's hilarious. It's so funny." And then the next shot is this. It's like I am now on the other side of the swimming pool.
Been banished to the outer realm. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's so funny. That's such
I
film set
fucking love
stuff.
it.
It's great.
Um, yeah. So I rewatched one of his films this week though. Dune.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm gonna defend that movie to the bitter end. You
Holy
know,
moly.
it has its of course it has its weak points, but I'm one of the guys that thinks it should be 45 minutes longer. But
Oh
that's
dear.
just me. That's just me. Give me more of that world. And his whole aesthetic in there, I was kind of feeling. But even he what do you call it? He kind of wrote off the film and said, "I sold out, and never again." Um, and that's one thing I do love about Lynch too. Like he's a final cut guy. Like he needs his
Yeah.
final cut. There's no one else that has control over what he's gonna do. He wants to do like that thing we played a couple weeks ago or whenever we played it. Who fucking says how long a scene should fucking be? When he says that, like he's just flipping out on whoever the producer or the scripty.
Yeah.
Like he has
I
his
mean,
way,
realistically, it's probably one of the assistant directors, right?
Oh, I'm sure, or probably a producer, because I'm sure the AD would never do that, or even the script he might have said something. Who
No,
knows? But
it's
it,
fucking screams AD at me.
yeah, possibly. Um, but I feel like if you got hired on his film as an AD, you better know who you're working for. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, this is the thing
Um,
about his whole style is, I feel like his filmography is very much a struggle with. I suppose we get so much behind the scenes footage of him, which is rare. But I think that's one of the defining kind of characteristics of his movie is he did have this really turbulent relationship with the production side of all of his stuff. Certainly, you do see it in the behind the scenes stuff for Twin Peaks: The Return, where there's the whole element of, well, we could save time by doing this, and he's like, I don't want to fucking save time. Why would I want
yeah,
to save time? I want to spend the next 4 days in this location thinking up stuff to do. That's what I
yeah,
want to do.
yeah. That's what
And
filmmaking is to him. That's
it's
his process.
certainly part of the reason why he made a film like Inland Empire, I think, after Mulholland Drive. And it's certainly, I think, also, he made Mulholland Drive. Obviously, if he had liked the experience, he probably would have made a movie in a similar style, but he decided to make Inland Empire in the real stripped back style instead. And I guess he didn't find that satisfying in that way, so he was like, you know what, I'm retired now. Which he
Yeah,
was. Like, he was retired for more than 10 years. Like, he didn't make a movie for 10 years, which is kind of
10
crazy to
years.
think
Yeah.
about.
I mean, he's also that coincides with the rise of the comic book film as well, right? So how easy is it to get a film made? And he might have saw the writing on the wall. Like when you read about his career, he made Eraserhead, and then he wanted to make Ronnie Rocket, and he just couldn't no one would do it. And then he had to go Elephant Man, which got him lots of praise, and then Dune, which killed him. And then he's like, I'll do Blue Velvet, I'll go back to me. And then had this 10, I guess 15-year period where he kind of did what he wanted, you know?
I mean, to a
Went from Blue
degree, but
Velvet.
like we talked about with Twin Peaks, it was like it hardly went his way.
Yeah, like, but that's the medium of television. It's
Yeah,
even more constrictive than filmmaking is, right? Like the
yeah,
'90s where you could do it. Like he made Lost Highway, for Christ's sake.
yeah.
It's a tough nut to crack for any producer. And then Wild at Heart, which is like, think about Nicolas Cage, late '80s Nicolas Cage and David Lynch together, and that's basically what you expect. And also Willem fucking Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is actually what stands out to me in that film more than anything, with these fucked up prosthetic teeth he has, and he's just so terrifying. Lynch has a way of like Kubrick did sometimes, like a way of like really getting to the heart of his actors, perhaps,
Hmm.
really getting these kind of unsettling performances out of some kind of people, in a way that other directors really can't. Uh,
Well, there's a great
like,
interview with Laura Dern where she says, I was doing this scene. I think it must have been Inland Empire. She she said she was doing this scene, and at the end of the scene, Lynch comes up to her and goes, he calls her Tidbit, and he
Yeah,
goes,
tidbit.
Tidbit, you're gonna have him running for the fire exits. She's like, I don't know how to take that.
Oh, I think I saw that, and she was like, I think that means he liked it or something. Like she was like,
Yeah.
I think that was good.
Yeah.
But like I always think of like the famous Robert Blake scene in fucking Lost Highway, which is
Yeah.
just all the music stops, everything stops, and you've just got this guy who later we find out he kills his wife in real life, which is like he's able to get, and like Defoe. Defoe is, and he's not a bad guy in real life, I'm sure, but there's something about Defoe that is unsettling.
Yeah.
There's an aspect to him that you can find that is unsettling, and Lynch is able to get there. He's able, and fucking Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, he's able to kind of take these people and find the side of them that maybe other directors are scared to go to or something, and he's really able to make he like that's why the film we just talked about is such a great film to me, because does have that, it's a horror film, right?
Yeah.
And all of his films are kind of humorous in a way. They have a funny aspect to them, most of them, but I mean, if he wanted to just go straight into horror, I think he had those are his chops, or whatever you want to call it. He has that ability, this talent, or I don't know what you want to call it, but he there's something that he's able to get out of these actors that just not many other people can do.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, but another, I just keep going back to like Wild at Heart and even Blue Velvet. There's these moments that are like just strange comedy, like almost macabre, like bellows humor, gallows humor, bellows humor, gallows humor. And Twin Peaks has it to a TVified effect, right? Like because it's television, you got to be a little bit more sanitized. But he does have these like, and I think that speaks to his process of just finding an idea that comes to him, and he's like, "This came to me, I put it out there." And it can be scary, or it can be funny, it can be whatever. But whatever it is, I'm just going to get it out and see how it looks, and then you put whatever you want into it, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, I think, his personality, this middle America suburban surrealist, as he's been called, I think, by somebody. The
I'll take
first
your word
popular
on that.
surrealist. Who said it? Pauline Kael or someone?
Well, for me, I
I
mean, he
might have.
was my first introduction to Lynch was through Blue Velvet. I watched it in university, so my reaction to it has always been kind of touched by this fucking academic side of things, where it's like a Freudian story, you know. I mean, the way the movie was kind of explained to us was, so his Kyle MacLachlan's character Jeffrey's father suffers like a sort of a brain aneurysm or a stroke at the start of the movie, and it's kind of visually represented with the hose tightening up, and so it's supposed to be this Freudian thing of the superego, which is the father figure, the authority figure, is cut off, and Dennis Hopper's character represents the id, which is the base desires of the person, and obviously Kyle MacLachlan is just the ego, his own person, the middle ground between the two. And so that's always kind of the way I've been forced to look at the movie, I suppose, in this very academic way, which is kind of disappointing in a way, because I kind of can't think outside that box anymore with that movie. Yeah, lectures have that impact. It's special.
Yeah.
But
I'm really
I
happy
feel
I
like
didn't take
I
any.
don't tend towards I don't tend to like have that same process towards his other movies, which is nice. You know, I kind of accept them for what they are. But yeah, Blue Velvet is very much that sort of thing. But again, I feel like Blue Velvet kind of almost lends itself to that. It is, of all of his movies, it feels the one that's most explicable in logical terms.
Except Eraserhead. Eraserhead, if you watch it, I don't care what situation you're in, you can tell it's someone, I think, who's worried about like a baby, pregnancy, becoming a father.
Yeah,
It's very on the nose in a way. You got this grotesque baby. I think he wrote it because he became a father. He kind of conceived it that way.
yeah,
Um, to me, that's the film that is the most successful that way, as to figuring out what he's trying to say. Blue Velvet, I guess I never took like my film school was more of a half of a trade school in a way, and we did do film theory and stuff. But when we did Lynch, we talked more about the aesthetic rather than the actual any kind of intellectual Freudian kind of view of it or anything like that. I wish I had have. When I took Freud in fucking university, we should have watched fucking that movie. Actually, would have liked it a lot more.
Well, the thing is, like, it
Um,
works or whatever. So
yeah, it does work, but that was just my only contention. I think that uh, I think he got more obtuse after Eraserhead and then that whole run he did, and then when he got into Wild at Heart, it's just he just starts going off the rails in a great way for me.
yeah. Well, I mean, Wild at Heart for me is unfortunately the one I haven't seen because in my entire life I have never had access to it. I don't know where this movie exists in the actual concrete sense, but
I
I have never
rented
been
it.
able to find a DVD copy or a streaming copy or a Blu-ray. Hopefully,
Well,
now that stuff is opening up here in Toronto, I'll be able to find a video store that has it. But
I scoured the web here for Wild at Heart and the Straight Story, and I couldn't even get anything this week. Nothing, nothing. Although today I went to the library and someone has Wild at Heart rented out, so
oh,
I could go there and get a copy, a hard copy, but I don't even have a fucking
nice.
DVD player, so I'm fucked.
You don't have a DVD
Um,
player in this day and age.
no, mine broke. Mine broke. Um, but yeah, like he's yeah, that's an interesting reading of the Blue Velvet. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's
Straightforward,
on
you
the
know.
nose, which is kind of boring. Like,
Yeah,
that's the thing is like, it doesn't. Once you have the explanation, it kind of loses everything, and I think that's the point of what the scene I was identifying with Lil the dancer was. You know, it's like once everything is explained, it loses everything. It loses its mystery and its the compelling nature of it,
because
and I still
that's the
think Blue
nature of.
Velvet is a great movie. Like for me, Blue Velvet is like the other movie that I compare it to now is I'm thinking of Ending Things by Charlie
Hmm,
Kaufman, where it feels like the
hmm.
directing is so intentional. Like everything, it's almost like he knows exactly what he wants every single time. And yeah, it is a thing that changes with Lynch's style after this movie. Whereas yeah, with I suppose I'm thinking of Ending Things, it was like I I almost like when I guess when I was about to watch the movie, I expected because he's like primarily known as a writer that his directing wouldn't be that precise, and yet it felt watching the movie that he knew exactly what it was he wanted to say and what exactly he wanted in every shot. You know, it was kind of crazy to watch.
It's a great movie. And yeah, uh, I think that's probably a. I think it's a decent analogy of these two. Good comparison. Um, I don't think with his later work, there's much that you can compare it to with Lynch. Um, there's not uh, many other filmmakers kind of doing that. Especially when you get into Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire. Um, those are singular films, I guess is the best way to put it.
I mean, you could
But
say
they're
particularly, but it's not like any of his movies are in any way similar to each other. Even it's like once you get like in Inland Empire is really nothing like Twin Peaks: The Return, which and Twin Peaks: The Return is nothing like Twin Peaks or like
original.
Fire Walk with Me. I mean, they're almost
And
besides the
even Fire Walk with Me
characters.
is even Fire Walk with Me is kind of a weird. It's quite different from the television show, right? Because
Yeah,
it's a movie and not
which
a television show,
explains in a
right?
lot of ways the problem people had with it.
Yeah. I excuse me. I I was trying to think like what my favorite of his films are. I guess I said Lost Highway before, but I really just love his work. I just love that he exists and he's been making films his own way
Yeah,
this long. And I love his just complete refusal to explain. Because I think you like as we were saying here, basically he's right. Like he's not like if you explain something, it loses its mystery, right?
yeah,
Like,
big
and
time.
I think what really drives him a lot, and it's in the imagery of his films, is the idea of what the universe essentially. like our place in it, and his character's place in it, and his own place in it, like where, like what it all is, what it all means, and you can like, it's like if someone asks what the meaning of life is, like there's no answer to that question. How can you ever possibly explain it? And if you did get an explanation, it would just be a letdown because it would be like, oh, it would take away the mystery. I think it's kind of like, not a perfect analogy, but it's kind of the way he looks at things. Because the imagery, it always kind of pops up like it was in Dune. I remember it being in the Straight Story, like it was at the end was a big part that I remember him talking about going to see his brother because when they were kids they used to like look at the stars, and I remember that was the last image of the film with them looking at the stars, and it seems to be something that he's kind of always dealing with, like these other universes and also Lost Highway. So you got the start of the movie, it's these two characters. In the end, it's like the same characters, but they're different. It's like a whole nother actor playing this character. And then Mulholland Drive, it's these people, and then see the second half of the film, it's circular, and they're the same characters, but they're same actors, but now they're different characters, and they've almost been flipped on their side. It's like these mirror images of one another, right? And all these, it's these are all kind of like, to me, it's him kind of working out the unworkoutable, like existence in a way. And I think that's why his films are so compelling to me, because uh, they're just as strange as life is, in a way that, like films where there's a very clear plot or whatever, and characters are going to do a thing, and all the motivations are very very expected and make sense. It can kind of like, you can lose that, but for some reason every single David Lynch film just kind of stays with me. Maybe that's why, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's my reading. That's my because that's what I really was thinking about this week. Why do I enjoy him so much? His work, right?
Yeah.
And it's that mystery. It's that mystery. I really just it would break my heart if there was like all this time he's been like cataloging um if, just before he died, he's like, "Oh, sorry, I wrote this book about all what everything means in all my movies." I would buy every copy and burn them to the ground. No, but he's like, I love that guy. I just love him, love him, love him, always and forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I feel a similar way. Like for me, I guess it's Twin Peaks is really the overarching kind of mess that the whole thing that is Twin Peaks is always, it's what has appealed to me the most kind of over time. I like those characters mostly, but I also find it's almost fascinating in terms of as a like an experiment in the art of TV and film in its own way. Like Twin Peaks was very much, the series was very much, let's take television in this new direction. Let's see what television is capable of. And kind of the movie was, I mean, the movie, in a way, it'd be almost worth kind of discussing like other movies that are based on TV series, which, they, they're, they're a kind of a muted genre of their own. I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like Saved by the Bell had a movie.
Oh fuck! Another TV show I used to wake up every morning on Saturday to watch, Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
And they made like the college years. And I remember being like 12 and being like, okay, even I'm more mature than these college kids. This is awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they made a movie. Everybody got married, I'm sure. I mean, I can't think of any other TV shows that made. Oh, Sopranos are now coming out with a film.
A
The
prequel, I guess. Is it still that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but you're like, I don't care. It's not because the
Apparently-
nature of it is not the same.
No, and it's for me, it's always Gandolfini or bust with that show. He made that everything for me.
Yeah.
The Breaking Bad made a film that I never watched.
I never
Like
watched
San Bernardino
El
or
Camino?
something. El Camino, that's what it is. What do I call it? San Bernardino. What other television shows made movies? Like I think there was a MacGyver movie that I'm sure Patty and Selma loved from the
Well,
Simpsons movie.
Deadwood.
Deadwood. Okay, that's an example. I didn't watch that.
It's horrendous. It's dreadful.
Yeah, no thanks.
I mean, it's understandably dreadful because, the cartoons do it. I did see the Rugrats movie in the cinema when it came out, and the Simpsons movie.
I didn't
Yeah,
see
the
the
Deadwood movie. I
thankfully.
mean, the Deadwood movie was terrible because, unfortunately, David Milch, the showrunner, suffers from Alzheimer's. So
Does he actually? I didn't know that.
yeah, so
Oh, that's
it's
terrible.
understandable that the movie sucks.
He's
But it
one of the
does. It's
greats,
terrible.
man. One of the greats.
Yeah, I mean, the
Um,
show, 3 seasons of that show on their own are actually perfect. Twin Peaks is an incredibly imperfect TV show. Deadwood is not. Deadwood is an actually perfect TV show.
To me, the first season of that show is one of the best things ever made. Like
Twin Peaks?
I remember. No.
Deadwood?
Deadwood. I remember.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember where I was when I watched it. I was in my basement. It was like whatever. I didn't leave. I got the whole season on a thing, and I was like off doing something I had just the time, and I was like, okay, I'll watch these. I rented for a week. I watched them in the time it takes to watch the show, like the hour, whatever, however many hours. I was up till like 8 a.m. and I was like, oh my god, like what did I just? That was amazing. This is the
Yeah.
best thing ever. Because I love westerns, right? So, and you're right, like that. That's a show that was perfect amount of time. It didn't go too long, like some of my other favorite shows, like The Wire, or
Well,
even
I mean, Deadwood
Mad
had
Men.
the same thing that Twin Peaks had, where it's like, okay, it's ending. Twin Peaks didn't really end before it became terrible, but
No,
it's very rare for American TV shows to end before they become terrible. Like usually,
Yeah.
American TV shows get run into the ground in the way like great British TV shows don't. Like most great British TV shows I think are probably sitcoms, and they tend to start slow and get great as they go on, and then they kind of end on a high, like Blackadder or
Blackadder, great example.
Faulty Towers, stuff like that.
Baldrick.
Yeah.
Baldrick.
Like the first season
Fawlty
of
Towers.
Blackadder, the first season of Blackadder sucks, but the
Yeah.
fourth season is great.
Fawlty
Mad
Towers,
Men-
though. Fawlty Towers is perfect. It's what 12
Yeah, it's
episodes?
2
or 20?
seasons.
2 seasons. That's it, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great,
Yeah.
great sitcom.
Yeah.
Extras.
Whereas
Ricky Gervais.
supposedly Deadwood got cancelled to free up some money for Game of Thrones, and it kind of sucks because the fourth season of Deadwood was going to be like the town burns down. Like that's what actually happened to the town of Deadwood, and they never got to do that. And then when the movie came out, it was all the actors were kind of too old to do the town burns down anymore. So it's whatever.
And
but
I
the
wouldn't
movie-
mind. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the movie sucks.
Oh, I was gonna say Game of Thrones ending like it did. That pours salt into the wound, basically. Like that they canceled it for that, for how that show fucking finished off.
I'm just glad they had a reason, because I think the shows should be canceled more often. But it for me, because I obviously watched Twin Peaks was probably the first great TV show I watched.
I think
I watched it before I watched The Sopranos and before I watched The Wire and Deadwood and all those. So the fact that it ended on this incredibly, like, it feels like Lynch had found where to go with the show.
Yeah.
With the whole evil Cooper thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't get to develop that is extremely frustrating. And obviously because Laura is not, like, Laura was, for me anyway, his compulsion, like what he really wanted to tell about Twin Peaks. So when he made the movie, that was what he got to do. But then when the third season comes along, it's like, well, now he has the whole evil Cooper thing to deal with. And that's what we want to see, that's what people wanted from the movie, I think. People wanted to know what happens next. What happens next? What is the next thing? And the third season gives you that, but you're watching the series, and not to give anything away, hopefully, but over time you realize Lynch doesn't want to give you this like plateau that you land on. You're like, oh, everything is resolved, lovely, I can now get on with the rest of my life. It's like, it's not his concern. He never cares about that. He never wants you to finish watching the thing and be like, now I never have to think about it again. He wants you to be what the hell does it mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to cover your
Yeah,
ears.
no,
You don't have to cover your ears. I'm not spoiling anything.
like, yeah, I think that's probably a good reading of how he works with his work, with the exception, like I said, of Wild at Heart, which had a strangely happy ending. But I think that's watch that film, you'll see what I mean. Because the rest of the film is just so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I don't think he necessarily wants to wrap everything up in a bow, right? He wants you to keep you on your heels. And also I think with Twin Peaks: The Return, although I haven't watched it yet, and I'm very excited, I think I think that also is influenced by this experience the first time around, right? Where this thing was just forced out of him by episode 8. You have to give all the cards on the table right here, right now. This is what we want, right? And
Yeah.
it just, and in a way, I think that's why Fire Walk with Me even exists, right? So he was able to kind of set up all these things, even though I read that he said that, I remember reading back in the early 2000s after I'd first watched the show, him saying there's not going to be any more Twin Peaks.
Oh, like
It's dead in the water.
the whole road to the return was incredibly turbulent. Even when it had been announced, there was like Lynch leaves Twin Peaks season 3. You know, there was like David Lynch will not be involved in the third season of Twin Peaks, which is like 2015 or 14 maybe. Like it was a long ongoing saga of difficulty. Um, Thankfully, I think it feels like an uncompromised vision of his. Um, which Lynch. I guess even just discussing the movie now, I think I've kind of realized about Twin Peaks and Lynch's contribution to it is that for him, like you watch the various episodes directed by other people, and it's like obviously for each director they have their own different style, which is largely beholden to a specific television style, but also not 100%. But even for Lynch, it was like it changed over time. Like the pilot, compared to the pilot and the last episode, episode 29 overall, like his style changed, and his style tends to change from movie to movie. Um, I mean, the change from Mulholland Drive to Inland Empire, which is there's no movies in between there, that is a significant change. And I guess my biggest fear going into the Twin Peaks: The Return originally was that it was going to be the Inland Empire style, where you're just there with the shitty DV camera, and it's like a super wide angle lens, and everything looks like crap. And even though he did shoot Twin Peaks: The Return digitally, it doesn't look like Inland Empire, thankfully.
Well, Inland Empire, I think, upon reflection, is probably the outlier among the groups. Like, because I talked about Elephant Man and Straight Story, they were still very much part of, like, they were uh, part of like a certain kind of professionalism, I guess, a quality of the work, right? Whereas Inland Empire is him just like kind of going off the reservation. I'm going to use a different term, off on his own, right? Small crew, fucking DV camera, whatever you want to call it. 3 hour goddamn running time.
Yeah.
It's him. It's very much an experimental film, and I think maybe he was just had this new medium to try out. He's an artist more than anything. He wants to just kind of fuck around, and I mean that clip you showed me, that's pretty insightful as to what was going on at that time, right? And maybe that's why he had to take a break. Maybe he's just like, all right, maybe I don't. What do I want to say with my work?
Well,
at
he
this
like
point,
dived
right?
into the world of music. Like that was his thing for ages. Was he was just doing music. He was like,
Yeah.
you can find lots of images of him online just with like a guitar across his lap, and that's how he plays his guitar. So every time for like 10 years, anytime you heard about David Lynch or news about him, it was like he's released an album or something. It was a strange time, and it's like,
Or his fantastic cartoon Dumbland, which
yeah.
if you ever feel like watching that, maybe don't.
Well, I think isn't a lot of that stuff on. Well, some of it was on Criterion for a while, but a lot of the stuff he's done, a lot of the kind of stranger stuff like rabbits and stuff that he's done is on his YouTube channel, which we played a clip off the top We played his weather reporter after that.
Rabbits was famously a part of Inland Empire, right? They kind of grew out of that. Like it's like this.
Oh, really?
It's in the movie, yeah. Remember, it's like part of the movie, isn't it?
Oh, it's been a long time since I watched that. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, Rabbits is definitely in Inland Empire, if I'm
Oh.
remembering. It's like a sitcom they're watching. Like he has this kind of obsession with he's another guy who's very much from a place. He's from, he grew up. I think he was a military family guy. He moved around a lot, so he grew up on military bases.
Yeah.
So he lived in places like Montana and Virginia and
Missoula, Montana.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Which is where Maddie from Twin Peaks is from.
Ah, there you go.
And that was the thing I wanted to mention actually about that clip I showed of Mike berating Laura and Leland. Is when Laura says, "You smells like burning."
Yeah,
That's what Maddie says just before she gets murdered. She runs down the stairs and is like, "Something's burning."
That means the demon is in our presence.
That means Bob is here.
Yeah, the demon.
So it's the thing because like when I originally watched Twin Peaks: The Return and when I originally watched Fire Walk with Me, it had been a huge gap between that and watching the series. So a lot of this stuff didn't connect because I'd forgotten so much of the series. So that's why I'm excited now to rewatch season 3 and see if this stuff recurs. I'm particularly looking out for the smell of burning. That's one thing for sure. I'm excited to take note of.
I was very sad to see that my man Mr. Silva had passed away. Very sad to hear the guy who plays Bob. So he won't be in it, obviously. Bobby Briggs is dead. Colonel Briggs is gone. There's a few people that are gone. I was so surprised though to see Bowie, and luckily Peggy Lipton was able to film again, I think. But she passed away. I'm very excited to see what he does. I mean, it's the
Peggy Lipton is not dead, is she?
Yeah, she passed away. R.I.P.
Norma?
Yeah, she passed away.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
2 years ago.
See, I'm terrible with dates and times. Like I thought Bowie died in like 2014. I was like, how the hell? Like,
oh my god, she's Rashida Jones's mother.
Hell yeah.
What the hell?
She looks like her, doesn't she? Don't you find that like in the face, like they look quite a bit alike?
Oh my god.
Mind blown.
Norma is Rashida Jones's mother. What the hell? I never knew that.
Your Kobayashi moment from Usual Suspects. It's all coming to you.
Yeah.
A rush of memories. Yeah, and like Madge Amick, I'm sure is better. Amick, I can never say her name, and we talked about her before. She worked on the show that I worked on a little bit, and the different shows that have been influenced by Twin Peaks. Like we were talking about Deadwood in these shows, but without Twin Peaks, none of that stuff even happens. A lot, in my opinion. I mean, the prestige TV era. Twin Peaks laid the groundwork for that. I mean, even Oz, which is HBO's first big like television show, that came after Twin Peaks. Like it was HBO was more like comedy specials and other crap. And then Twin Peaks came on, and it changed television. It completely changed it. It gave it a grandeur it never had before. It showed people that stuff was possible in that medium. And like I said, like the cinematography alone, you can see the difference when you look at Twin Peaks compared to other stuff around that time period. It just looks better.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Twin Peaks' influence, here's a quick clip.
Heck yeah.
That's damn fine coffee you got here in Twin Peaks. And damn good cherry pie.
Brilliant. I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
I swear to God, that is how I got into Twin Peaks.
That was definitely my first impression.
My entry.
Yeah.
My entry. Harry Shearer, I can recognize his voice anywhere. The damn fine piece of cherry pie. That fucking does those great newsman voices in Simpsons.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? Honestly, The Simpsons is how I got into Kubrick, how I got into so many things. just being a little kid and not knowing what I'm watching. Like, what is this reference? What is this? What is that? And then going to the movie store and finding out and going to the movie store and renting them.
Well,
As
I
I got
mean, for
older.
me, the first time I watched The Godfather when I was like 17 was an experience of, oh, that's what that's from. Oh, that's what that's from. Like,
Well,
fucking 10 times I feel like you watch The Godfather, like, oh, that's what that's from. That horse head. Oh, yeah, this shot in the eye. Oh, yeah.
that's how I discovered The Shining, because the Halloween they did a Halloween special and Homer
Which
becomes
is
a
the best
caretaker.
Halloween Simpsons episode, The Shinning.
Oh my, the Shinning. Oh my, when that
And the,
Willie
the
keeps
time
getting
traveling
killed.
toaster is the same episode. I love that.
Yeah, that's such a good one. Willie keeps getting killed, and
Yeah.
Maggie gives him the axe. This is the most unsettling timeline. Um, I could talk about Simpsons for fucking 10
Or when
episodes.
he just settles on they're basically normal except they have lizard tongues. He's just like, close enough.
Close enough. Or the Simpsons is always great because Homer could never win, and then
Yeah.
he comes in and he's like, "No donuts," and he goes back downstairs and oh, it's raining again. The donuts are just coming out of the sky.
What a good episode. That's the one. That's
So
where they
great.
have the running gag of Willie getting axed in the back as well.
That's what I mean. And Maggie kills him. Everybody kills him in a different way. It's just there's not there's no one's been better since for me than those guys.
The
But yeah,
Simpsons,
that's
the
how
Twin Peaks of comedy animation.
hell fucking yeah, and they're still going somehow. I have not watched any seasons in 20 years, but
Zombie
they're still,
Simpsons. Yeah, it's not the
yeah.
same. Imagine if Twin Peaks was still going. Like, imagine Twin
Oh,
Peaks just became an actual soap opera. That's what The Simpsons is.
yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's sad to see, man. Honestly, it's sad to
Like,
see.
imagine Twin Peaks was 30 years later. It was just like a whole revolving cast, like your typical. Like, Coronation Street's still going. That's like a 40-year-old. I don't know if the
Still
American
going?
soaps last that long, do they?
Oh yeah, like American General Hospital, One Life to Live. They're all still on television. They're all still fucking going somehow. Um, it's all trash. Every bit of it.
Yeah, you know, what is to say Twin Peaks may not have gone that avenue, and we'd all be watching it still, been like, oh,
That's on again. No, it was too weird for people's sensibilities. That was it was just too strange, I think. And that's almost, you know, you could say that about Lynch as well for most folk.
there are
He's definitely
10,349 episodes of Coronation Street.
that's insane. 10,000?
It celebrated
Oh,
its 60th anniversary last year.
that is
What a
that's
disturbing timeline we live in.
that's what a disturbing timeline indeed. My God, 60,000 of anything is of any kind of medium. Like that's man.
10,000.
Sorry, 10,000. I times it by 6 because it might as well be 60,000.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Generations of grips and gaffers have been working on that fucking show, paying their bills,
Oh, yeah.
getting their pensions.
Yeah.
God love them. Well, maybe that's the key. We got to start our own soap operas. There's no Canadian soap operas.
Really?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Surprising. We have a show called Heartland, which is just I'm not going to make fun of it, but that's
There was a Canadian show that I saw. Michael Horse, who plays Hawk, was in called. It was like Above 60 or something like that. It was called
North of 60.
North of 60. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a popular late time night show thing. There's a few shows like
CBC.
that. CBC had a few shows in its day.
Yeah, he was talking. I was watching some of the extra stuff on the DVD, Twin Peaks DVD, and he was talking about Twin Peaks was one of the. He did Lone Ranger back in the early '80s. He played Tonto.
Okay, yeah.
He was like, oh, from that point on, I was kind of like, I really only work on quality stuff. He's like, I really feel like Hawk is one of the great characters or whatever. And then he started talking, the interviewer was asking, what other stuff have you worked on that is like of that standard? And he started talking about North of 60, the CBC show.
Yeah, I mean, I was something that would be on in the background when I was a kid, a couple shows like that. Like back then the Canadian TV landscape a little different. Now it's more even more Americanized than ever, I guess is the best way to put it.
Which is like,
I'll-
it's not a bad thing. I think it's kind of sad if a
Yeah.
decent show comes along that doesn't get properly seen. Like I feel like Anne of Green Gables has gotten quite a lot of viewership worldwide.
yeah.
Same with Kim's Convenience.
Yeah, although there's some controversy this week about that apparently. So.
Yeah, I mean I don't watch any of these shows, so I don't know or care. But
I've literally.
still, I think
watched
it's a good
0
thing.
of those. No, get it made. Go get paid. Get made. Do your thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's none of them are of the quality of Mr. Lynch's Twin Peaks though, and Mr. Frost. I'll say
It's
that.
really its own thing. Even the terrible episodes that I finally decided to watch, they have. Well, what's really funny about the terrible episodes of Twin Peaks is that they, like with Lynch, I suppose when Lynch comes along, you're like, oh, finally I'm back in safe hands. Whereas with the terrible episodes, you're like particularly the mayor. There's a whole story, like a
Yeah.
subplot with the mayor and his brother and the woman he marries, and all of
woman.
the men in the town just turn into idiots around this woman.
Yeah, she's like this kind of femme fatale.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
like this adds nothing to the overall feeling of like the lodge, like the Black Lodge. They're getting into like Major Briggs and all that is really digging into the Black Lodge and the whole supernatural side of things. And then this stupid story is going on where all the men are just enamored with this random woman.
Yeah, I really hope that she doesn't make it into the new season. That stuff was always so tiresome to me.
Yeah.
Even Wyndham Earl, like it just.
I mean, yeah, thankfully that whole thing was ended.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
In the final episode. With some
Yep.
great visuals. The whole fire coming out of the back of his head and stuff.
That's another thing you kind of see a lot. I think is fire with David Lynch. The fire,
Yeah.
very visceral kind of thing, I guess.
He loves a bit
the
of fire,
fear.
alright.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that it isn't the last thing that he's made. I hope he has more in him as far as film or whatever goes.
Well, of
But-
course, we do have the great What Did Jack Do? His Netflix short film
Oh, the short film, yeah.
with the monkey.
With the monkey. Another thing he loves, little monkeys.
Yeah.
Like he loves monkeys.
There are some monkey shots in this movie, aren't there?
Yeah, there are, yeah.
Yeah.
There are. Those little guys, little monkey guys.
Yeah, and finally he got the technology to do some monkey lip syncing in What Did Jack Do? And there's been an interview recently with Laura Dern where she talks about, David's working on something great, and I have been watching the weather reports in the morning, and I was like, I don't really know what this is, like where he is. It may be his studio, but I don't recognize it from, like, I saw the Art Life, the documentary about him that came out not that long ago, and like his old weather reports used to be shot differently in a different location, which was definitely his studio, and now he just seems to be in front of like a dresser, which could be hotel room or could be his bedroom before he goes off somewhere to set. So I don't really know what he's up to, but he hasn't ruled out any more Twin Peaks. I don't expect really to see any more, but then I never really expected to see any more. So,
But I think, he's got one more in him as far as films. He's not as prolific as some of his peers, some of the people that have been around the same time as him. He's only got like I think he has less than 10 films. So
yeah, somewhere between 10 and 12, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So hopefully, but Twin Peaks: The Return is what? How many episodes? 12?
It's 18.
18. That's like 18 1-hour movies. So it is kind of it's a lot of stuff, right? So
yeah, it is a great farewell to the medium. It stands as that. If it is that or not, time will tell. But
I love that you have no definitive answer after watching the entire thing. It's music to my ears. Oh my God,
yeah,
I can't wait.
I'm just super excited to rewatch. I really
Yeah,
am.
I'm fucking pumped. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're back here on
cannot wait.
Tuesday talking about Twin Peaks: The Return, parts 1 and 2.
Yes, sir.
That'll probably be a longer stream than we will be doing on Tuesdays going forward, I'd imagine, because we have 2 episodes to talk about. But from then on, we're going to be doing 1 episode a week. That's the plan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, anyone who's interested in that, please follow. We'll see us on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. At least that's our current standby time.
I think that's a good
And then
time.
we'll be back on Friday to talk about Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an exciting time.
Lots of things happening.
The world's coming back to life, and movies are still in existence.
Hell yeah. Theaters are coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to getting into one. This is my first calendar year in a long, long time without one.
This is the longest I've ever gone without going to the movie theater, so I'm very excited.
It sucks. But yeah, all right. That was Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me. We'll be back on Tuesday. I'm super excited for that. Talk about that now, I must say.
Heck yes.
But all right. Have a great weekend, everyone. And talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.